Hello and welcome to the Daily Meal for Wednesday, the 4th of September 2024. In today's Millwall news, we start off with this from the southwarknews.co.uk, which is published tomorrow, so if you see it in the shops, pick up a copy for sure. Millwall boss reveals Striker had been on his radar since Bristol Rovers spell. Millwall boss Neil Harris revealed Josh Coburn had been on his radar since the striker's time on loan at Bristol Rovers in 22-23. The Lions signed Coburn, 21, on deadline day, and he scored on his debut 24 hours later, tapping in the first at the Coldblow Lane end as Millwall beat Sheffield Wednesday 3-0 at the Den. Coburn made his Middlesbrough debut in 2021 and a year later went on loan to the Gas, where he scored 10 goals in 27 League One starts. Coburn scored 5 goals in 25 appearances last season for Borough and 1 goal in 4 games this season before his move to SC16, where he's got 1 in 1. Oh, he's everything you want in a number 9, Harris said. I saw Josh a couple of years ago. He played for Bristol Rovers at the end of the lockdown. I was Cardiff manager at the time, and he was outstanding. He was such a threat. You could play up to him. He could physically beat defenders up, in the nicest possible sense. And he could run forward. And what really impressed me was he knew how to score a goal. And that's why we've chased him all summer. So it's so important that we have an identity as a football club, and the best Millwall teams have had a number 9 leading the line, and that's effective in different ways. Josh will bring so much to us as a team, as Richard Sadlier did, as Paul Moody did, as Steve Morrison did for so long. He'll bring the best out in so many players around him. He's such a key signing for the football club. There you go. Again, I don't want to be an ish stirrer, but we have to point this out because this is, if you ain't seen it, it's staring you in the face. So we have a situation at the club where we've got a director of football who's seemingly in charge of the transfers, and we have a head coach who is given players and told to get on with it. And we have here Neil Harris clearly saying, that guy that we signed, and he was actually quite good, and he wasn't injured, and he didn't go away with the international team, even though he's injured. Yeah, and he scored. Yeah. That was my idea. That's one of mine. That's one of mine. So chalk one up for me. You know what I mean? So he's clearly pointing out a few things here, and he's such a key signing for the football club. So patting himself on the back there. So let's hope that continues. And it's very interesting when you see these things, and I don't know what's going on at the club, but it's kind of funny and kind of weird in a way, but we'll see. We'll see what happens in the future. Obviously, one to keep an eye on. Now, moving on to this. This is, yesterday's video, as I'm starting to record it, unbeknownst to me, outside a storm is brewing. Not in the real world, ladies and gentlemen, not in the real world, in the Twitter world. The world of tweets and twits. Yeah, so what's happened here then? You may have heard of that. If you haven't, strap in for this, because this is going to be a fun ride. So, on Twitter last night, pictures get put up by somebody, some I think some Serbian football fan site, showing pictures of the new record signing, Mihailo Ivanovic, in football boots on the training pitch. Okay. What? He's injured, isn't he? Isn't he injured? Neil Harris, after the game, said he was injured for 8 weeks. He's got a metatarsal problem, so what's going on? So, oh no, he's and then people saying, oh no, he's just gone out there to, to say hello, and because he's one for the future, Mitrovic is getting on, so they need a replacement. So he's just going out there. He's just going out to say hello to everyone. And then we get a video or a little GIF. No, I think it's a video actually, which is, I think it's pulled off of Serbian TV. So it's one of those where they, like Football Focus, where they have interviews with the players and they show clips of training and stuff while people are talking, talking head style. And there's a clip with no sound of all the Serbian players standing around in a circle, and they're doing not jumping jacks, I don't know what they're called, standing jumps. And our boy here with his broken metatarsal is doing jumping jacks, and everyone's like, oh, what the fuck's going on here then? The club's mugged us off. What's going on? They've signed a dud, and they know they've signed a dud, and they're covering it up. It's conspiracy. It's like, Martha, get my tinfoil hat, because I ain't having this. What's going on here then? And then Richard Corley picks up on it, and he's making a thing out of it, and it's like, well, if Richard Corley, he's dropping in on it. Obviously he's got links to the club. If he's talking about it on Twitter, but then the next day, so this was like 11 o'clock by this time, because what I do, unless the video's really, really late, if it's like a normal time, only about 10 o'clock, I try to follow like the news at 10 schedule, you know what I mean? Like back in the day, we had news at 6 p.m, then we had news at 10 p.m, before we had 24-hour news channels. So by that time of day, you would think that all the Millwall news would be known about, and then I can make a video about it. And all of the Southern News and South London Press have got their views on their website, so they're all good. And then I can record it, and then I put it on the thing, and then we can crack on. So normally after I make a video, I generally go and make something to eat. That takes about an hour or so. So I come back, start eating my food, watching something on the YouTube, on my TV, and start going through the phone. And I'm seeing all this. It's about 10:30, 10:45, 11 o'clock. I'm seeing all this pop up, and I'm like, what's going on? And I'm like kicking myself, because if I'd have waited probably half an hour, I could have picked up on all this and I could put it in the video, but I'm putting it in the video now. So we're going to go through it. Indeed. Right. So this is from londonnewsonline.co.uk. So as I said, Richard Cooley was talking about on Twitter. So in that case, you would think that if there was any funny business at Millwall, they could probably say to him, hey, can you not talk about this? So it wouldn't have appeared in the South London Press online, which is londonnewsonline.co.uk today. But it has. But it's written by Edmund Brack. So is that a way around it? Have they told Richard Cooley, hey, don't write about this? And he's got Edmund Brack to write about it. And so, well, what you meant to? It wasn't me. We don't know. So Millwall released statement as record signing reports for national team duty despite injury concern. Millwall believe a period of rehabilitation is the best course of action for record signing Mihailo Ivanovic, despite the Serbian FA calling the striker up for their upcoming Nations League games. Neil Harris confirmed over the weekend that the 19-year-old was set to be sidelined for up to 2 months with a broken metatarsal. Ivanovic joined on deadline day from Serbian top-flight side Vojvodina for a club record fee which is in excess of £2.5 million. Mill said on Wednesday morning, I'm not going to read this because I've got this on the other thing, but I'll show you in a minute clearer. So they actually put out a statement. So Mill have made the Serbian FA aware of their findings from the medical. However, they deem Ivanovic fit enough to take part in a camp ahead of their outing against Euro 2024 winners Spain on Thursday. Ivanovic was unveiled to the Mill fans ahead of their 3-0 win over Sheffield Wednesday at the Den. Lions boss said, Mihailo, he's a young player. He's been called up to the Serbian squad. I think everyone needs to know he's not going to be available for 8 weeks due to injury. So this is where we got the injury news from Neil Harris after the match, because they do team news about the games ahead of them in the previews. I think they do that probably for betting circumstances to make everything fair. Okay, this player's not going to be available. This player's not going to be available. I'm not sure. Like, I don't know if they're obliged to do it for that reason, but they do. So the thing was, because he was signed so late on Friday, he wasn't even going to be involved on Saturday. So they didn't need to tell us before the game, because we already knew he wasn't going to play because he didn't have international clearance. He wasn't registered in time, not international clearance. So he wasn't registered in time, because you have to be registered before a certain time before a game kicks off. For whatever reason, I think so that they get the paperwork in so they don't have any like ineligible players playing and shit like that. It's a thing that they do. So we already knew he wasn't going to play. So we didn't think he was going to play. But then after the game, in the post-match, someone asked him, "No, what's happened with this kid?" Two things he said. It's a club signing. I think he said that it's a club signing, and he said he's going to be out for 2 months, 8 weeks with a metatarsal problem. So that's come from Neil Harris. That doesn't come from the club. So here we have. So everyone's going at this time. If you're not on Twitter, everyone's going mental on Twitter. They're losing their mind. Like, what the fuck's going on? The club's mugging us off. It's that and the other. Whoa, what's going on? So as you can see, I'm not on Twitter. There are full disclosure. There are 2 accounts on X Twitter. I'm gonna call it Twitter. You know what it is. That have the words Daily and Mill in them. None of them are connected with this channel at all. So this is the statement Mill put out. Now, interestingly, this was only put out on Twitter. Only. They didn't make an article about it. I think maybe because that is connected to an RSS feed, and if they put a story about it on their website, that would blow it up into a massive thing. Whereas obviously a lot of journalists do look at Twitter, but obviously they can't see everything all the time. Like the Mill journalists obviously know to follow Mill's Twitter, but Football League World and other fucking dope and maybe the Serbian press aren't going to know to look at Mill's Twitter to find a story about a Serbian player. So they put this up. Does it have the time on it? When it was put up, it's 10 a.m. So this storm has been brewing overnight, like from about 10 p.m. yesterday. So by this time it's like 12 hours, and you can see the lad there. Look, this is the picture that came out, but there's a worse one where he's jumping up and down, and you can see he's wearing football boots with studs on. Normally, when they have injured players there, they might be there, but they might be in like flat trainers. You know what I mean? Because he could probably still do like stretches. He's just got a problem with his foot. So this is the tweet that they put out to try and shut everyone up. We are proud that Mihailo Ivanovic's talent and hard work has been recognised to represent Serbia's national team at just 19 years old. Mihailo was identified earlier this summer as a player with incredible potential, and we are delighted to have signed him on a long-term contract. During a series of extensive medical tests, the club identified a potential short-term metatarsal injury, which could be managed in London with the best care. Our medical team is of the belief that a period of rehabilitation is in the best interest of Mihailo, and knows his national team will take great care of him. The club remain in constant contact with the Serbian FA. We wish Mihailo the very best during his first of many call-ups to the international team, and look forward to seeing him in a Mill shirt over the coming months. Could have said coming years, because he is on a multi-year contract. Kind of weird, but now we haven't heard much from Steve Gallen, but on the website, after the players that we've signed, there has been quotes in writing from Steve Gallen, and they very much read like this, where it's ba 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 ba, 2-line sentences, ba 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 ba. This very much reads like Steve Gallen wrote this. I don't know if he did, but you know, there you go. So we have this coming out from the club this morning. And to make matters worse, what's happening? So this is obviously, as I've said, I'm not on Twitter. So this tweet has been around. I've seen it. This person, I believe, and we believe, is Ivanovic's father or his agent, or maybe both. And he has made the mistake of engaging in conversation with the Millwall fans on Twitter, which is insane because everyone's going mad. And it's like, I don't think he understands, like, don't do this. Do not do this. This is not the thing to do. What is it? Mark Twain said, don't argue with an idiot because he'll drag you down to his level and he's got more experience. So don't talk to them. Maybe make your account private. Follow all the people you need to follow, and then I'm going to make my account private. But yeah, so this is, so like I said, we believe that this is his father because he's the one who leaked out the pictures. He leaked out a picture of him at the ground before he signed, because he was there on Thursday, like we heard. He was there on Thursday, we believe, to do his medical, and then they literally waited until Friday night to finish up the signing. And we assume that the reason for that was because either they were waiting for Fleming to go, or they found the injury problem and they're like, okay, what do we do here? Do we still sign him? Or what's happening? So this is the tweet he put out. He said 99% he will not play. 100% the Federation of Serbia Soccer wants him around the game. I think that Millwall fans should think the same. Mihala is feeling fine. He's great. No pain, no problem. He watched from the central boxes Vojvodina in Belgrade against Partizan on Sunday. You should all be relaxed. So it's all good. It's all good. So the father's saying, what? But here's the thing. Is he injured or is he not injured? Why would they lie? So obviously, I don't believe Neil Harris is a liar. I don't think Neil Harris would lie like that. So has someone lied to Neil Harris and said he's injured when he's not? Now, he didn't say he was injured. He said he had a problem. So maybe there's like a hairline fracture, which probably needs to heal up. So he probably needs to just not use it. Maybe stop wearing those dopey football boots that he's wearing, and take some calcium or something. So maybe something that promotes HGH, which is legal, and then let his foot heal up. But as you see, so he said here, he said he's feeling fine, great, no pain, no problem. So he's been playing. He hasn't been missing games for injury. But so here's the thing. What they might think is that maybe Millwall are fucking bullshitting, because maybe they think, obviously they come from Serbia. I imagine they're probably used to some scoundrels in Serbia not telling the truth, and they probably think the people at Millwall lied about the thing that they found on the scan to maybe try and get the price down. Which, again, I don't think that's going to happen, but they still ended up signing him, so why would they do that? So there we have it. And there's more. We'll get into the more. So he might think, well, I'm not injured. There's nothing wrong with my foot. I'm not in pain. It's like, yeah, that's the idea. They've identified a problem that could lead to you actually breaking a bone in your foot. So you need to stop and let it heal up. But he's thinking, no, it's not broken. I'm fine. Yeah, that's not the point. So they don't understand. They don't understand what's happening. I don't know if you ever seen someone talking about being stabbed when they didn't realise the other guy had a knife. It's like, they got punched. They just thought they got punched and they didn't realise they got stabbed until they looked down and seen the blood streaming out from them and seen the guy's got a knife. And you don't feel it if you don't see it. it just feels like someone punched you. So he probably doesn't realise that there's a problem because he doesn't feel it, which is, it's like a paradox. What is reality? Like, is my foot broken if I can't feel it's broken? Yeah, I don't know, maybe. That's kind of a metaphysical question, really. But, so yeah, that's happening. Now, we are trying to go the other way and provide some explanations for what's going on, maybe. So, a lot of people are saying, why have the club let him go? Why they let him go? They can't stop him, that's why. This is from, I should go up first. I'll show you this. If you wanted to look at this, this is a 30-page document from the European Club Association, apparently the heart of football. The mandatory release rules and FIFA's unilateral changes to the international match calendar. Main questions and answers. This can be found at www.ecaeurope.com. And if you want to find it, probably just search ECA mandatory release rules and it should come up. It's a PDF. So, we go down. Questions, answers. Right, okay. So, now here's the thing. If you get lost while I'm going through this, just rewind it and go again. Or pause it and have a little think. Is there an obligation for the players to comply with call-ups for both triple headers in the September and October international windows? In principle, yes. Article 3, Parentheses 1, Annex 1, RSTP. Players are generally obliged to respond affirmatively when called by their national association. The above notwithstanding, please note that the commentary to the RSTP provides that once a player has been called up to play for his national team, he basically has to comply with this summons. Should he wish not to be called up for a certain match or matches for a certain period of time, he must inform the association of which he is a national in writing of his intention before being called up. Furthermore, only the player himself is entitled to renounce representing his national team. This declaration shall be submitted by the player to the association concerned in writing. Now here's the thing. This is the lad's first call up. Why would he write to them saying, hey, don't call me up? It's like, they could look and like, bro, who are you? We didn't call you up. We weren't even thinking about calling you up. You know what I mean? So there's that. And we go down. So here's the thing. Here's what usually happens as well. So you see in the news all the time, you see the player gets called up. Because we'll get onto that in a minute, why that happens. A player gets called up. And then he has to withdraw from injury, because of injury. Withdraw because of injury. Why is that? They get called up. They have to go to where they're going to. Or organise a place to go to see a doctor. That is of the National Association's choosing, who will then inspect them and tell them, okay, you're not fit, you can't be here, go back to whence you came from. Okay, so that's why you keep seeing players who get called up and then, not fit, withdrew from it because of injury, they still have to go. If you don't go, could be problems. So, when do the National Association have to issue the call-up under the rules? National Associations wishing to call up a player must notify the player in writing of at least 15 days before the first day of the international window. Article 3(2) of Annex 1 of the RSTP. The deadlines for National Associations to call up players for the relevant September and October windows are respectively the 15th of August and the 19th of September. Ladies and gentlemen, when was the last day of the transfer window? Was it not the 30th of August? So here's the thing that's happened. This is what's happened. Serbian FA have contacted Vojvodina and said, Vojvodina, we are calling up your player, Mihailo Ivanovic. Capiche? Okay. And then he has transferred in between being notified of being called up by his National Association Serbia and moving to Millwall. So you would think in this situation that Vojvodina would contact Millwall and say, hey, he's been called up. Because I think it came out the day after, or maybe it came out the same day, that he'd been called up by Serbia. A graphic and the tweet was released and announced, and the PR was all done. But they know 15 days before. However, another thing may have happened in that what may have happened, because I told you about this guy before. If you didn't know, if you didn't see that video, go back and check. But if you ain't got time, that's fine. I'll tell you now. He was at Vojvodina. He went to Sampdoria on loan with an option to buy, not an obligation, an option to buy. He played 2 minutes for Sampdoria, only 2 minutes in the whole season. They didn't buy him, and he came back to Vojvodina. Now, I think I heard someone there that he does have a Croatian passport. So you would think, because of Croatia in the EU, Italy in the EU, it's quite easy for him to go to an EU country. However, Great Britain has left the EU, so that makes it not so easy for him to come to England if he wants to come to England, which, if you are of the type of player that he is, which is a kind of a tall target man type player, where's the place you want to go? You want to go to England. That's where you want to go, because they don't mind players like that. So, what I think may have happened is that Vojvodina got notified that he was being called up to Serbia, and their eyes lit up, and they thought, hey ho, let's go. We can sell him to England now. If he gets a Serbian cap, that means he can get a work permit in England very easily, and we'll get onto that in a minute, because I'll show you that in a minute. So they then picked up the thing and said, hey, they've spoken to him, hey, do you want to go to England? Do you want to transfer to England? You tried to go to Sampdoria in Italy, didn't happen. Do you want to try and get a transfer to England? So then they've started contacting English clubs, maybe clubs who have shown an interest in him, or maybe have sent scouts to look at him in England and said, hey, you know that player you were looking at and you didn't really follow up on it? He's about to get a Serbian cap. Once he gets that Serbian cap, the work permit's basically almost guaranteed. So, do you want to come back and take another look at him? So that's what might be happening. And why we signed him. Because we've jumped ahead. Because we got inside information that he's going to get a Serbian cap, which means there's no work permit problems. And that's what's happened. And that may be another thing that's happening. Why we're letting him go? Because if he don't get his cap, well, I just said we can't stop him from going. Like the rules say, it's on the player to say, it's up to the player and the National Association. The club can't get involved. If they do, there's problems. But it's in Millwall's interest to let him go to Serbia. And they said he's going to be named on the bench. We'll have to wait because the game's tomorrow. I think we'll find out about 6:45. But I imagine a lot of people don't realise and don't watch this channel are going to see him named on the bench and they're going to lose their shit. So there's going to be another Twitter storm tomorrow and we'll see how that goes, because that's going to be funny. Like, if they don't realise, he might have to be on the bench. I don't know if he has to play or if he can just be on the bench to get a Serbian cap for him to then quite easily get a work permit in the UK football system. You know what I'm talking about. So, what else have we got? So, if the association doesn't respect the 15-day deadline, the club will not be obliged to release him. So that's how you can say. So if they don't tell you 15 days in advance, then you don't have to let him go. So them's the rules. There's rules on each side. And then they've got something called a pre-call. And what we got here. So, when do players have to leave to join their national team? When do players have to start travel back? 9-day international players must start traveling no later than Monday morning. no later than Wednesday morning, all that stuff. There's all kinds of rules and stuff. Like I said, this is, if you have the time, ECAEurope.com, mandatory release rules. And then there's like if the players don't return on time, which has happened with like some African players, I believe. But the travel situation is quite crazy. Can clubs refuse to release a player if he is injured? In principle, yes. Article 4 of Annex 1 RSTP provides a scenario where a player is unable to comply with a call-up in case of injury or illness. Nevertheless, the player is obliged to undergo a medical examination if the National Association so wishes. What I just told you. If they call him up, they still have to go and undergo a medical examination before they can get told, okay, go back, which is insane. If you think, like, if you have to fly, like maybe like Wes Harding has to go to Jamaica to play a game, and he's injured, and then like will fly out and then fly back, which is insane. Which is why they can say, well, go to this doctor in London and he'll examine you. But again, here's the thing: we're in a very unique situation here. It must have happened before, but I'm not sure. He was at one club when he got called up. He gets transferred to the other club. They find an injury in the pre-transfer medical. So, and not only that, it's his first cap as well. So is he not going to go because it's his first cap? Of course he's going to go. So, and like I said, if he needs that cap for the work permit, just pretend you're not injured and sit on the bench. Like, if it's not something that's visible, like he's got crutches and that, or if he's got a neck brace on, like sit on the bench. And then they've got something about COVID and stuff. But yeah, there you go. So, all kinds of rules. So like I said, them's the rules, because everyone's going nutty. Like, why are we letting him go? Why are we letting him go? So the rules say you can't. The clubs can't do shit. The national associations select the players, and if you don't send them, you're going to get in trouble. So, talking about the work permit situation. So this is from Daniel, I don't know, you found this Gay at danielgay.com. It's a blog about football business, agent shit and stuff like that. Changes to English football's work permit rules. I believe this is from July 2023. This is kind of like a blog way it runs. So, recently the UK Home Office approved the FA's immediate relaxation of the GBE rules relating to transfers for overseas players. In this back page piece, we take a closer look at the new rules and consider what impact they may have on the football recruitment landscape. The post-Brexit GPE points-based system. So the points-based system, I mentioned this before. I'm going to remind you in a minute in the next piece that we move on to, because I brought it up when we signed Idomu and Maku in terms of like how can we sign him, and basically because he played in the UEFA competitions that gave him enough points to be able to get a work permit in the UK. So, following the UK's exit from the EU, the GBE points-based system, which previously only applied in respect of non-EU players, was essentially extended to cover the transfer of EU players. To apply for a visa, foreign players must be granted a GBE, and these are awarded depending on the player's appearances for club and country. See their previous blog for more detail. This represented a sea change from the pre-Brexit free movement era, when clubs were able to acquire players from across the EU without needing to worry about such work permits. At the time, most thought that the most restrictive post-Brexit rules on overseas transfers would benefit young English talent. However, as explained by the FA's chief executive Mark Bulliam earlier this year, the opposite has been true. We've had twice as many foreign players come through in the last two transfer windows than in every transfer window previously. So there's a big influx, and correspondingly, you've seen the amount of England qualified players under 21s having their playing time drop substantially to about half since Brexit. They're a worrying trend for us. We're down at about 28% of England qualified players. So there you go. So additionally, English clubs have voiced their concerns that the GBE system leaves them at a significant disadvantage in the transfer market compared to their counterparts in La Liga, Serie A, League One and Bundesliga, who are able to pick up the best young international talent unchallenged. Others argue that it has led to the inflated transfer fees as English clubs are forced to compete against each other in the transfer market for a much smaller pool of slightly older and more expensive foreign players who meet the GBE eligibility criteria. So, they were moaning because a player in Italy who's got an EU passport can go throughout the EU quite easily, and they can't come to England quite so easily. They needed to be of a certain caliber, which is literally like, yeah, it's like protectionism. That's what's happening in this country all up and down the job market. Literally, the FA say you can't have a coaching job without coaching badges. They do it themselves. You can't work as a security guard without an SIA. You can't work on a building site without a CSCS card. You can't drive a car without a fucking driving license. There's all kinds of rules going on that you need to have pieces of paper to be able to get the job. And same here, you need to have qualifications to come to England as a foreign footballer, because they don't want any old Joe Smo coming in. Because then, who's going to play a 21-year-old kid when you can just sign anybody anywhere at any time? The new elite significant contribution rules. Against that backdrop, the FA has been working closely with the Premier League and the EFL. I imagine mostly the Premier League, because they are paying the money, so it's literally he who pays the piper picks the tune, and these are the rules that the Premier League want and the Premier League get. To find a progressive solution which will give clubs additional access to international talent and incentivise playing opportunities for English talent. Under the new rules, the GB points system will be retained, but English clubs will now be able to register a certain number of elite significant contribution players who do not meet the current GBA requirements. So they've just brought in another criteria that you can sign players. Now remember, there are rules on who you can have in the matchday squad, and we mentioned these before. I think it's like eight players that have been in the UK system, youth system, and you need to have one home-based player, one player who's come through your youth-based system, and if you don't have that, you forego one of your 9 substitute places. So there you go. What does elite significant contribution mean? The new regulations state that a player will be deemed, I'm going to say ESC for escape, so I don't want to say elite significant contribution all the time. So ISK player, if the player is an elite player who will make a significant contribution to the sport. In this respect, the FA expects the player to have satisfied one or more of the following conditions. So what they've done, there are rules for GBA, the points-based system. You need to get up to 15 points. Underneath that, they brought in another level where you have to meet some of these criteria. And they are played in at least one youth competitive international match for a national team, ranked in the top 50 places. Okay, so we're talking about a Serbian fella. Let's have a little look. This is, so obviously these change every month, so I don't know how that's, I guess it's from the month that you sign him. So, oh, this is from July. Is it not? Can we not do, oh, this is the latest one. So the latest one is in July. I thought it's changed every month. It must be every 2 months. June, July. Why haven't they done one for August? I guess because the teams ain't playing. Most teams ain't playing, I guess. They must change it after every international game round. So where's Serbia then? England in 4th. Okay. Above Brazil. Yeah, Brazil's shit now, aren't they? Croatia in 12th. Yeah, we know pretty good they are. Switzerland in 15th. US of A in 16th. Have we seen Serbia yet? Where's Serbia? They need to be in the top 50, remember? Oh, here we go. So they are 32nd. Serbia are 32nd. 32nd. And they're above Russia, who haven't been allowed to play, really. I don't think they've played any games, have they? Not allowed. So Serbia are 32nd. So they meet that top 50. So, now here's the thing. It says youth competitive international match. So, but what level? Under 16? Under 17? Under 18? Like, is it just any of them? I guess so. It doesn't really say. So, played in at least 5 youth competitive international matches for a national team ranked outside the top 50. Played in at least 1 continental youth competition match, or played in at least 5 domestic youth competition matches. Okay. Played in at least 1 senior competitive international match, or for a national team ranked in the top 50. Hang on a minute. So, like I was saying, look at this. Played in at least 1 senior competitive international match for a national team ranked in the top 50 places in the FIFA World Rankings. What is happening tomorrow? Spain versus Serbia Serbia versus Spain in the UEFA Nations League. They are in 32nd place. So all he has to do now, what does it say played? What does it mean played? Does he have to actually get on the pitch, or can he be an unused substitute? Because obviously there's going to be a match report, an official match report that gets sent to FIFA. He'll be listed on it as an unused substitute. Will that still count? So here, like I'm saying, if he goes to that game and is involved in that game, that makes him an ESC player. But I think he's already got it, because he's already played in at least 1 youth competitive international. He's played in his domestic youth competition 5 games. He's a regular for his team, so I think he's already got it. But, hang on, at the bottom. It should be noted, however, that domestic youth competition matches only cover certain domestic leagues worldwide, and clubs will therefore need to carefully consider the regulations when evaluating whether a player is capable of being an ISK player. Is the Serbian Superliga a qualifying league under this system? We don't know. Now, how many ISK players can each club have? Premier League and Championship clubs will, at least initially, so just Premier League and the Championship. No League One. So League One are banned from this. League One are not allowed to do this. League One have to sign English players. English players for English League. Be able to register a maximum of 4 ISK players who do not meet the current GBE requirements. Whereas for League One and League Two teams, the maximum will be 2. They are allowed. They're only allowed 2. Premier League and Championship can do 4. The quota of ISK players a club can register will be proportionate to the number of minutes they give to English players, as explained in this excellent Analytics FC piece. While each club will get at least 2 places for ISK players in the 23-24 season, they will thereafter receive between 0 and 4, depending on the number of English players playing in future seasons. So again, we have a thing. There's a safeguard to protect English players coming through the English game, so we can have English jobs for English workers in the English league. Fair enough. And so the more English players you play, that means the more foreigners you can sign on this ISK system. The FA has confirmed that this allowance will be kept under review, so it may increase if the English player development program is working successfully. So they might increase it. ISK player loans. So there's rules about that to prevent stockpiling of a large number of ISK players and then sending them out on loan. Is an ISK player an ISK player forever? In short, no. If after 12 months an ISK player meets the GBE thresholds, the club can apply for that ISK player to transition to a non-ISK player in order to free up another ISK place. So there you go. And 21st Group Analysis, Omar Chowdhury, the real talent behind the Dan and Omar podcast. I think the guy is Daniel Gaze, that's his podcast. So he has a podcast. Provided some fascinating insight in a short blog detailing that. English clubs can now look globally for talent, identifying markets that are undervalued and eke out a competitive edge. While many selling leagues can now market players to the world's biggest football economy, i.e. England. For example, free markets that typify these opportunities. J-League. Yeah, we've seen a lot of Japanese players come to Britain, especially to Scotland, Celtic. The 21st best domestic player pool in the world. But no player sold to a European club for over 5 million in 15 years. That's insane. Obviously, there's a massive cultural barrier there, and I mentioned previously about the collapse in the yen. I imagine a lot of those Japanese players would like to go abroad so that they can earn pounds and euros and dollars or whatever, and then transfer that back to Japan and get more yen for their money. Danish Superliga, 1/3 of the league's 50 best players are under 23, with these players on average already good enough to start for leading championship teams. Salaries are around 50% lower than equivalent championship players. North Africa, 20 Premier League level players born in this region, but today are much more likely to reach England via other European countries. Yeah, well, we know because they speak French in certain North African countries, they go to France. The nationality talent pool is likely to expand in the coming windows. So this was, I believe, last summer this was written. The new, more relaxed system, in our view, likely to have the following effects. English clubs will have access to a far broader range of foreign talent. Players from South America, the USA, Africa and Asia who do not meet the current GBA thresholds will now be available to English clubs for the first time under the new regime. For example, when Chelsea signed teenager André Santos from Brazilian club Vasco da Gama in January, the player immediately returned to Brazil on loan as he did not qualify for a UK work permit, whereas if the transfer had happened this summer, Chelsea would have been able to register him as an USC player under the new rules. An influx of young overseas talent this summer. Under the previous rules, very few young foreign players qualified for a UK visa under the GBE system, regardless of their ability. That's the thing. In order, to get the work permit, you need to have, I'll show you in a minute. I'm going to show you the next thing. You need to get points. And how do you get points? By playing games and getting experience. Whereas if you are the best thing since sliced bread, and you haven't done anything in the game yet, but people know you're magical, you ain't going to get the move. It's not going to happen. You have to wait. And in that time, you might lose out on some opportunities. The GBE system, regardless of their ability, with the new rules coming into effect immediately, we can expect to see an influx of young overseas talent into the Premier League and EFL, and clubs will need to be even more strategic in deciding on the makeup of their USC squad members. Is that not? Now, here's the thing. How complicated does this sound? This is why we now have a director of football. Whether you think that should be Steve Gallen or the other geezer, what was his name, Aldo? Whoever it is, this is why we need one in this day and age. You can't have the manager of the football team doing all of this stuff because it's just got so complicated and so unwieldy. And if you want to take advantage of the opportunities, you need a permanent full-time person to be dealing with this, because this is insane, all the rules and stuff that they have to follow to get decent players in. So these are what they predict, remember. Transfer fees will diversify across eligible and non-eligible overseas players. Previously, English clubs were competing in the transfer market for the few overseas players which had the requisite 15 GP points. The 15-point mark to get the automatic, because as soon as you get that mark, it's automatic. The government basically said to the FA, work out some rules. The FA worked out these rules, and then the government said, okay, as soon as someone meets the target of the 15 points, we'll give them a work permit. And that's how they do it. Because obviously the government, they want to make some money because they tax the fucking bejesus out of everyone. So they want to make as much tax money as they can. So they're saying, because you had this 15-point target, there was a limited number of players who reached the 15-point target. And what that meant is that the transfer fees were getting crazier and crazier and crazier and crazier, as everyone was trying to get these players who had the 15 points, which inevitably drove up the demand and price for that limited pool of players. However, under the new rules, competition for those players will likely decrease as clubs turn their attention to lesser known USC players available at more reasonable prices. And again, this looks like, lordy, this is another stroke of luck for Millwall. We cannot compete for the 15-point players. We can compete for the USC players. We've just signed one, although fucking hell, it's 2.5 million. That's a lot of money. But we've got him. We got him. You know what I mean? We can get decent players from abroad. We can bring them in, train them up for a few years, play them for a few years, sell them on. Everyone's happy. Good stuff. Nearly finished. There will be greater playing opportunities for English talent by creating a system that rewards clubs for giving minutes to English players. Again, this is part of the system. If you want to sign ISK players, you need to play English players, which is no problem for us. Look at the English players we've got in the team. What have we got? We've got Tanganga, we've got Jake Cooper, we've got Daniel McNamara, we've got Billy Mitchell, we've got Romain Esse, we've got Honeyman, we've got Bradshaw, we've got Coburn now. We've got loads of English players. That gives us more chance to sign these young talents from abroad now. The FA is hopeful creating an improved pathway for talented English youngsters. For example, if a Premier League club has identified a full of potential ISK players it wishes to sign, that club will still want to ensure it has enough ISK places available to complete those signings. That will only be possible if the club is giving sufficient opportunities to English players. So they have put a safeguard in there to stop just clubs going out and signing all these ISK players. So this is DanielGay.com. It's a blog about the football world. Apparently they have a podcast as well. Dan and Omar's podcast. I haven't looked at it. I've just seen this. So this is the old system. I have shown this. I believe I've shown this very page before. worldfootballindex.com. But this is from 4 years ago, 2020. And it's got all of the system down. And I brought it up when we signed Edomu Maku, I believe, about signing players under 21, etc., etc. And this is the 15-point mark. So here's the tables, and you get points. And so literally what it meant, FIFA World Ranking, top 10. If you signed a player who's played in most of the FIFA... So this is designed to be able... The best talent in the world can come to England. Because we want the best league in the world, we want the best players in the world to come to England. So, okay, automatic pass. You automatically get a work permit, and then it goes on to, it kind of goes down and down and down, you can see. And then 51 plus, like, you're lucky if you can. Like they said, that restricted the amount of qualifying players. And then we've got this here, continental competition. So, the Europa League, the Champions League, but then going to the AFC, which is the Asian Football Confederation Cup, and the Copa Libertadores, I think it's called, in South America. So you got the band 1, band 2, band 3. That gets you, if you got players played in them, you get more points, which is why Edomu Maku played, I believe, in the Champions League and Europa League, gets himself some extra points. We were able to get a work permit for him, although he's Irish, and I think Irish can pretty much get work permits quite easily anyway, because a lot of British citizens in Northern Ireland also have Irish passports because they don't want to be British citizens. So I think that's why you ever seen on the election time people from Ireland with Irish passports can vote in English general election and other foreigners can't. It's because there are people in Northern Ireland who don't want a British passport, so they get Irish passports, and that's kind of, I think that's some kind of compromise. But so there you go. Look, these are the rules, different bands. So here we go. So obviously, the players get points depending on how high the competition is. So band 1 is the Premier League, the Bundesliga, La Liga, Serie A, League 1. Where is the Serbian League? Band 5. Serbian Superliga. So here's the thing. So this means we're trying to get a work permit for the guy. Based on playing for the Serbian Super League, he's not going to get a lot of points. But like we said, if he gets that cap for Serbian national team, automatic, ka-ching. You can see here, so... And it's based on minutes, not games, because obviously that's an easier way to do it. And a lot of the stats websites cover minutes now. And what we've got... So in terms of the team that you're playing for, how are they doing? Are they a good team? So it's a good team in the Serbian League. I didn't look at the Serbian League to really see where Vojvodina finished, either last season or where they are this season. I don't think they're at the top. I'm not too sure, but... So there you go. So like I said, I brought this up before, but this is 4 years old, so the page previously is more advanced than this. So this is what's happening with your man. Where is he? Where's he at? My man. Well, let's go to this one and get the picture up. So that's what's happening with a guy. Why did the club let him go? The club can't do anything. It's up to the Serbian FA. They can tell us to fuck off. They can do what they want. Now, here's another thing. Apparently, according to, obviously, a few years ago, they brought in financial compensation. I believe it was due to the Irish FA suing FIFA or UEFA. And it went on for ages and ages and ages. And they ended up getting compensation. Or it might have been a club, actually. A club, because it would have been a club that sued maybe the Irish FA and UEFA. And what happened was, it ended up going to arbitration, and then they had to sort out a system of financial compensation. I think they called it CPP. I can't remember what that stands for. I did have it. I looked at it up earlier. I didn't bring it up on the video. So CPP. So that there's compensation player payments, something like that. If your player gets injured, the club is entitled to compensation when he gets injured on international duty. However, if the player has a known injury on a known body part, and he goes and he plays for his national association, that's why a lot of the national associations, especially the poorer ones, the lesser ones, they say you get a lot of withdrawal from injuries, because they're not going to risk it. Because what happens is, if he's got a problem with his foot, his right foot, he plays, he gets an injury, a previous known injury. He gets injured on his right foot, even if it's not to do, like, he's got broken metatarsal. Let's say he gets an Achilles, or he breaks his toe, which is kind of connected, but not really. It's not the same thing. According to the rules, so far as I've seen, which maybe I'm wrong, Millwall cannot get compensation for that injury, as far as I know. Which doesn't make any sense, because they can't complain about him. You know what I mean? Like, if they can't object to him being called up because they think he's injured, then why can they not get compensation when the player plays with a pre-known injury? That doesn't really make any sense, but that's what I've seen so far. So there you go. So what's happening is, in short, he's gone off to Serbia. We can't stop him. There's a weird situation where Vojvodina got told about him being called up, which may have facilitated his transfer. We found a problem in the medical. He's joined anyway. He's decided to go off to Serbia, and it's his first international call-up. He's probably over the moon. He wants to go anyway. He's probably told them that, like, he's got an injury. But here's the thing: if he needs that appearance on the bench, or even to get on the pitch to get the work permit so he can come to Millwall, he needs to do it. Like, Millwall fans need to realise he needs to do it. So don't spit the dummy out, and don't get upset if you see him taken to the pitch in the 89th minute against Spain, just running around gingerly up front before the game ends a couple of minutes later. It may be that he needs, and if he doesn't do it, and he doesn't get the work permit, what may happen is he'll still be registered as a Millwall player. We'll have to wait for probably the October window, and obviously, if he gets called up to that, does play in Serbia's games in October, then maybe he can get the work permit and join. And if not, if he gets injured or it gets worse, it may have to happen that he waits to January. Then, if he's fit by January but doesn't have a work permit because he hasn't played an international game which would have given him the work permit which facilitated his transfer to Millwall, then we probably send him out on loan, which would be an utterly bizarre situation. and just crazy Millwall situation, much like the two Russians and various other things that have happened, the Euro ferries, the Admiral Taverns, all kinds of stuff that goes on, the Asda, all kinds of stuff that's going on, and you're just left scratching your head and like, well, what's that? What was that all about? So yeah, another chapter in the madcap Millwall money situation. So there you go. Now, I do have another thing to talk about, which is pertinent to tomorrow's games. This is from sportspromedia.com. ITV strikes a last-minute deal for Scotland and Northern Ireland UEFA Nations League openers. Short-term agreement avoids the blackout, but long-term future uncertain. What's going on here then? Well, this is from Live Football on TV.com. These are the games that are on tomorrow. As you can see, we have a lot of international games that are TBC. That is not the name of a channel. That is literally, no one knows where they're going to be shown on the television in the UK. Because Viaplay had the rights and they were using Premier Sports to show the games, but Viaplay sold Premier Sports, or bought them out or something. They bought themselves out, and so now Premier Sports are not connected to Viaplay. They did buy up some of the rights that they had when they did that, but they did not buy up UEFA international games. So we face the possibility where Northern Ireland, they have the rights to all of the games, including Northern Ireland games and Scotland games. They don't have the rights to the Welsh games or the England games. The Welsh games are on S4C and I think maybe BBC iPlayer, and the England games are on, I think they were on Channel 4, I think they still are. So we have a situation now where these games weren't going to be shown for the fans in Northern Ireland, the fans in Scotland, so ITV stepped in and snapped up the games now. Why is that important for you? Well, 2 Millwall players, could be, well no, actually one. The other, did he get called up? No, he did get called up, didn't he? No, he didn't. No, Kevin Nisbet didn't get called up. Josh Savilles, playing for Northern Ireland against Luxembourg, most likely. They have an away game against Bulgaria. Probably they have been managing these minutes, the Northern Irish. So I think if he's going to play in one of those games, it will be the home game against Luxembourg. And then he probably won't play in the Bulgaria game, or probably won't even travel. So if you wanted to see Josh Savilles playing in the Northern Ireland shirt, switch to ITV3 tomorrow, or ITVX. So if you're on a smart TV, you get the app, but you need to register. If you go on ITV3, it's the channel that's on Freeview, or on your satellite and cable, whatever you got. 7:45, watch the Northern Ireland game. Watch them narrowly draw with Luxembourg. And you got the Scotland-Poland game as well. And yeah, the Wales game, although Tom Bradshaw obviously not involved for Wales, that's on S4C and BBC iPlayer. And I think, the England game, Republic of Ireland versus England, UEFA Nations League, that's on ITV1. I'm waiting to see where, if possible, the England under-20 game may be shown. I think if it's an away game, it might be shown on YouTube, because today England under-18s played Portugal under-18s, and that was shown live on YouTube by some Portuguese channel. So if we get the news that that Romain Esse's game or Adomo Maku's games are going to be shown on YouTube, I'll let you know. So let's have a little read of this and find out what's going on. UK commercial broadcaster ITV has secured a last-minute sub-licensing deal to broadcast the men's Scotland and Northern Ireland soccer teams' opening UEFA Nations League fixtures. Scotland's first two games against Poland and Portugal will air on ITV, and Northern Ireland's match-up with Luxembourg will be transmitted on ITV3. Northern Ireland's second game will be exclusive to ITVX streaming platform, which is annoying, which will simulcast the other three fixtures. We are delighted to air the men's Scotland and Northern Ireland national team's upcoming Nations League fixtures, said Niall Sloan, ITV Director of Sport. The games will be free to air across ITV and ITVX, ensuring fans can enjoy watching these matches live as the new league begins. The agreement ends uncertainty for the SFA and IFA, along with fans and commercial partners, and avoids a potential domestic broadcast blackout. In 2022, Viaplay acquired the rights to all UEFA men's internationals not involved in England, including FIFA World Cup 2026 qualifiers, UEFA Euro 28 qualifiers, Nations League matches, and international friendlies until 2028. I assume they bought them from UEFA and FIFA. Or maybe UEFA, because obviously the qualifiers are run for UEFA. So maybe they just did a deal with UEFA. However, the Nordic Media Group withdrew from the UK market, probably because of Brexit, before the deal came into effect after UEFA Euro 2024, although Viaplay sold its sporting division back to Premier Sports earlier this year. The transaction seemingly did not include the rights to UEFA's international competitions. So, boo. So there you go, that's what's going on. So there you go, like I said, if you're already missing the football and you're missing the fun and you want to watch a game tomorrow, have a look at Northern Ireland versus Luxembourg on ITV3, 7:45 kickoff, and try and find out online if you can if Mihailo Ivanovic has been named in the Serbia squad against Spain. And we'll have a laugh at all the people going nutty because they don't realise what the situation is going on, and see them slag off Steve Gallen and Neil Harris and other players and other people. So there you go. What can you do? What can you do? And on that note, thank you for watching and goodbye.